We're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a great session this morning, and I want to thank everybody that's come in physically here. Just to let you know, we've also got about right now 40 folks that are participating virtually. And in this morning's session, we are honored to have Miss Cindy Hubert from the American Productivity and Quality Center here to introduce to us what KM's about and give her some of the experiences that she's well versed on in terms of what she and her company does in supporting KM. So I'm going to turn it over to Cindy. Ms. Hubert.
Good morning. I've had the pleasure of being in the field of knowledge management for 15 years. My husband, who's an oil and gas guy, is saying, what the heck? What is this all about? Anyways, it's so nice to be here. And Pat, I was just commenting to a new friend that I met out in the audience earlier because he called me a lovely flower name. Jack, where are you? I think this is a milestone that we actually have a knowledge management track at an Army conference, at a larger conference. I mean, that's a pretty good milestone when you think about, some of you are nodding, you're a knowledge manager, aren't you? Yeah, I know. It is, it's a huge milestone, and this book, this crazy thing that has my name on it, our president, Dr. Carla Odell, invited me to write this with her a couple of years ago, and you know, we just kind of started out and said, oh, okay, let's think about it. But what it afforded us to do was to really think back and reflect. How many of you have a lot of time to reflect these days on what you've learned and what you know and how it applies to the world that you're in today, which is what this book allows us to do. One of the things we've realized is that we have had a great opportunity to work side by side on some projects with a number of organizations inside of the Army and have learned so much from the military. You guys have a way of looking at your knowledge, and it may, the critical path may be that it's going to save a life, and so you figure out how it needs to flow really fast. And a lot of that has been encapsulated in your processes and your practices. And so I'm excited to share some of those with you today, as well as some of the cases that we really delved deep into and used as a platform for what does good knowledge management look for. So I want to share some things with you today, three, and by way of the three things I want to share with you, I got to do a little bit of stage setting. So it's going to take me to slide 7, if you're counting, to get to what I really want to talk to you about today. But let me do some stage setting. I want to talk about a knowledge management program. Now let me do this. We're going to do two things first. I want to do some definitions for you, and then I'd like to do a little benchmarking, because Pat didn't say APQC, how we brand globally these days. Some people get caught up in that American word, so we like global data when we go after it. But we like to do a lot of benchmarking when we capture data. So we're going to do some quantitative benchmarking, we're going to do some qualitative benchmarking this morning. So let me do the definitions first. First of all, the first thing that APQC really has looked long and hard at over the last, over a decade now, is just, what is knowledge management? Well, to get to the raw material of knowledge management, you have to think about knowledge. And for APQC, we define knowledge as information in action. It isn't going to do you any good sitting in some database, a piece of information, or an expert sitting out in some far remote place that can't share what they know or what they've learned. So knowledge is information in action. That's first definition. The second definition is about a knowledge management program. And that is a real formal effort that you put processes and tools and people behind to make sure that those things are in place that allow your knowledge to flow. So we get this, over the years, we get this feeling that knowledge management is not about everybody doing knowledge management, but it's about people engaging and participating in the things, in the structures, and the approaches, and the strategies that allow your critical knowledge to flow. So that's how we define a CAN program. Now, when you look at really good knowledge management programs and efforts, what you see is they really look at it from an enterprise perspective. And I'm going to talk about, I'm going to sprinkle throughout my discussion with you today, is I'm going to talk about the core organizations that we looked at in our, and did case studies on in our book. One is MITRE, and some of you are probably familiar with them, a contractor for the government, and they do deep information and partner with the Army, the military, to find information, whether it's cybersecurity or cyber defense. That's what MITRE does. So their knowledge is very critical to serving their customer and helping you figure out very complex things. We looked at IBM Global Business Services because they have a vast, complex network across the globe, and they always want the knowledge to flow at the best moment so that they can help the customer figure something out. We also looked at ConocoPhillips. They're an oil and gas organization, if you're not familiar with them. Large, again, global, very complex system. It's done a great job. And we looked at Fluor, which is a large global construction organization. So 4 very different things, but they all have one thing in common. It's very mature knowledge management programs, and that is an enterprise approach. Now, enterprise doesn't mean that it has to sit above all of the enterprise, but their scope of who they're trying to help, their customers, is everyone in their organization, which gets to be pretty tough when you start thinking about your customers and how far spread you guys are. So those are the 4 that I want to talk about, and so those are just our definitions of what we're looking at today. So what is knowledge? What does knowledge management help you do? It's a systematic approach to help your knowledge be created, discovered, flowing to the right people so it's shared and transferred so it can add business value or impact to something that you're doing, and then knowledge management programs and at the enterprise level. All right, so that's good definitions. Any questions on that? And we can make this interactive. Pat said we have a long time together this morning. All right, so when you think about your program, here's my first question for you. Think about your own knowledge management, and I'm going to call them efforts right now. And Tammy is changing my slide, and she's way overqualified, just so you know. She's going to be flipping slides with me. So what I want you to think about, and I wish I had polling technology, but I don't. So just raise your hand. Pat, I may need some help because I want to kind of get an estimate here. We've got 5 responses, and I want you to think about what it is you call your effort in KM. So the first one is, we'll put these up, a project. The second one is, and I'm going to come back and we're going to vote on these. Second one is an initiative. Third one, a process, knowledge management process. Fourth one, a program. And the fifth, I know I've missed something, so we're going to go to the other space. All right, so going back, I want to see a show of hands for those of you in this field or who have been exposed to some efforts around knowledge management. How many of you call it a project in your organization? Raise your hand. Just a sprinkle. All right. How about an initiative? Just yet another, so not too many. A process. Okay, we're hitting about, maybe a fifth of you on the top 2 and 3. How about a program? Oh, this is another milestone. Half the audience? How about other? What's other? What does it sound like? What is it called? What do you call it? Bill. An enabler. Thank you. What else? I need to hear. What else do you call it if it's not one of these? Just yell out.
A mess.
A what?
A mess.
A mess. Those qualitative answers are always good. Who else? Anybody? Just yell it out. I won't call. Yes. A way of doing business. Oh, that's nice. But you don't call it a program. It's just a way we do it. It's embedded. Okay. Very good. Okay, so given that, now I want to do a little qualitative benchmarking. Whoop. Not quite. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. That is right. Go ahead. Let me let you compare yourself. So this is from APQC's knowledge management participants at our conference in May. We had about 300 organizations, and we asked the same question. You can see where you fall. Mixture of about 30% government, military, industry. And so you can see that a process was the large response there and a program. So about 50-50 on that, or about equal on that. And then the others, we had some interesting comments as well. All right, so that's your quantitative benchmarking. Now, here's your qualitative benchmarking. It's a little bit more stage study for you. As Carla and I went back through, we said, we want to really write this book so it's very directed to our audience. And our audience really was about the knowledge manager. the person who is leading the effort for CAM inside of organizations. And as we went through, we said, you know, what are those questions that we get asked time and time again? I want you to think about these, and Tammy's going to scroll through them as we go. A lot of times what people see is that they feel like this, is they're trying to either get their CAM effort started, they're trying to, enhance or improve an effort that has already been started, but it's a mess right now. So look at these questions. How do you do a business case for CAM? How do we show the value to our senior leaders so they'll pay attention to us? They don't do it. What do we do with COPs, communities of practice? How do we get people to participate in our COPs? How do we build a business case for action for our social media that we want to put in? All of our social network tools. Where do we start? Keep tipping through. And ultimately, how are we going to prove the value of knowledge management? So I wanted you to take just a couple of minutes and sing all of this. And you can sit, you can turn around, you can get 2 to 2, 2 to 4 to 4. Spend a little bit of time in some discussions to the people next to you and talk about what your biggest challenge is right now in knowledge management. Given those frequently asked questions, do you respond to those? Or there's something different? Let's take just a couple of minutes. Turn to the person next to you, or you can group in fours and spend a little time talking about it. I want to hear if yours match what we keep finding. You never know. You never know. Usually we don't know the person sitting next to us in these kind of things. So hopefully you know explain it. All right, so you're going to have to share with me, and can I take the mic out too? Is that okay? I know we have our online participants with us as well, and they're chatting on their own. Technology's great.